Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Nonprofit Coach Podcast. Since 2010, the most listened to show in the nonprofit sector dedicated to helping your charity succeed. It's no secret that combining online and offline techniques is the key to fundraising success, and practical nonprofit management advice is what you need. The Nonprofit Coach Podcast with Ted Hart is the perfect landing point to learn from experts around the world who provide advice you can use. Ted Hart is, without a doubt, one of the foremost nonprofit thought leaders. Also a successful author, his books range from successful online fundraising to expert nonprofit management. Guests on the Nonprofit Podcast are leaders in their field who share their insider tips and trade secrets in a conversational style both the experienced and novice will benefit from. Ted and his guests help you and your organization move to greater levels of efficiency and fundraising success. Ted lectures around the world, but now he's here for you. After the show, you can find all of our podcasts at tedhart.com, on iTunes, and now just say, Alexa, play Nonprofit Coach on TuneIn. Now, welcome the host of the Nonprofit Coach Podcast, Ted Hart.
And welcome here to this latest edition of the Nonprofit Coach. Thank you for being with us today. We've got a very, very important show with you today. We do have a page one for you, but we're going to start off with our expert. Michele Hall-Duncan is the President and CEO of the enCourage Kids Foundation. Michele began her career at enCourage Kids as a volunteer and joined the foundation staff full-time in 1996. Her passion and warm personality combined with her leadership expertise eventually led to her rise to the organization, and under her direction, the program's department immediately began to flourish. As you'll hear in our podcast today, in addition to overseeing the growth of the Pediatric Hospital Support Program, Michele is responsible for the creation and development of the tablet program, which became one of the organization's most sought after and valuable programs. The relationships she has fostered over the years with Child Life staff and at all levels of hospital administration have helped her to develop an integral understanding of their needs and has helped position the organization to be on the forefront of state-of-the-art programming. Michele is a trustee of the Children's Specialized Hospital Foundation, where she serves as board secretary and chair of the governance committee. She also serves on the advisory board of one of the nation's leading anti-bullying organizations. So this is a lady who is not only very well skilled in nonprofit management, but is also a visionary, and that's why we've asked her to join us here today on the Nonprofit Coach. Welcome here, Michele Hall-Duncan, here to the Nonprofit Coach.
Thank you so much, Ted, for having me. I'm super excited to be on your show today. You do an amazing job of helping your listeners learn about all aspects of nonprofit management.
Well, and that's really why we've invited you today, because as you know, here on the Nonprofit Coach, we handle and manage topics across the board for nonprofit organizations. And really, there's nothing more important than to have strong management, but also to be visionary as a nonprofit organization to really make a difference in people's lives. So let's start off with just sharing with our audience so they can have a context, since you are providing us this profile in leadership today. What is the enCourage Kids Foundation? And then I want to spend our time together sort of breaking down lessons learned and the direction that you've taken and how you have taken vision and made it a success. So let's start off with who is Michele Hall-Duncan and what is the enCourage Kids Foundation?
So thanks for that. I think that you said something interesting about my bio and something that people have really been interested in. I started as a volunteer, and so starting in that capacity meant that I already loved the mission. It wasn't my job to do it. It was what I loved to do. And what we've done over the course of the nearly 35 years of being in existence is really to truly help to humanize healthcare for children and their families. We love to resource impact-driven projects in the hospitals and also work with the child life community, along with nurses and doctors, all working collectively to seek to better that experience for children when they're hospitalized, because it can be so traumatic. 3 million kids get hospitalized each year, and it can be super traumatic for them and their families. And so we love to try to mitigate that trauma for them.
And that's really the mission of the enCourage Kids Foundation to, as you have said, humanize healthcare for children and their families by resourcing impact-driven programs and supporting child life community. That's a lot that's packed into there, but from a leadership perspective, one of the things I heard you say that I think is so important for everyone to understand, and it's said so often, but actually putting it into practice is a whole different thing, and that is collaboration of a lot of different professionals who are not part of your foundation or not employees of your foundation, have their own day jobs and their own professions, but still have a stake in making sure that, in this case, children and their families are successful in that healthcare. So talk to us a little bit about the vision of bringing teams that are not necessarily teams together, and your role in helping strategize that.
I think, what's become increasingly important in this very competitive nonprofit, or as I like to say, impact industry environment, is that you do need to collaborate. It's necessary to partner not only with other foundations, but anyone who has the same end goal as you. And so when you're talking about humanizing healthcare for kids and families, or helping to try to mitigate a lot of those psychosocial traumas that can happen to them on the journey with an illness, there are so many people that are involved in that process. And so I think that if you don't partner, you kind of lose that energy that you can have. I hope I don't mess this up, but I know there's a proverb that says something like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that is what we always try to do. We really try to ensure that, number one, we're working with the cutting edge professionals, that we're listening to what is current and actually what children need. I can remember years ago when music therapy kind of came on the scene as one of the therapies that would really help children when they were going through a traumatic illnesses or injuries. And we were very interested in supporting that in the hospital. And now you look back 15, 20 years ago when people were just starting to use music therapy in the hospital setting, and now it's a necessity. You don't find too many well-heeled children's organizations or children's hospitals that do not have music therapy as part of the standard of care for children.
Mm-hmm. And that's because of the vision that you and the professionals that you brought to bear identified those elements that were not necessarily part of a standard of care, but brought it into that care environment. And now, as you said, after all these years, that's becoming more the norm than the exception. And isn't that part of what being a leader is? Because I'm sure that you probably had the naysayers and the detractors, who said, that's just fluff, or that's not necessary, or that's not real therapy, or that's not real medicine. So how did you overcome that, stay the course, and now be proven right?
I think you have to be confident in your decisions, and you have to be confident in your knowledge base. What really gave me the confidence is that I always go to the expert. I do not claim to be a child life specialist. I do not claim to know everything. I truly suspend my ego, and I pride myself on being a listener. And so when you listen, and you learn, you can absolutely go in and convince a group of funders, anyone that you need to work with to get the job done, to really follow you, because that's part of what leadership is, convincing people to follow you and buy into your vision. I knew that music therapy was the right thing to do. We all did. We understood the impact. We saw in those piloted moments that this is transformational for kids. And so I think my job is to definitely go in and tell those stories to our funders and to our board of directors so that they can understand, hey, this is something that's super important, and obviously the fact years and years later that and many other creative arts therapies are so important in the healing journey for kids.
But again, how did you come across that as something that you could add to your vision and the value that the enCourage Kids Foundation could bring? I mean, because again, that wasn't the norm. You weren't just walking in and working, from somebody else's song sheet. You were actually writing a whole new symphony. So how did you find those component parts that you could then, write into your artwork?
Do you mean specifically how we found music therapists, or how we developed the program?
Music therapists, the different therapies, the tablet program. How did you identify things that weren't there and bring them together? Because I'm trying to help our listeners understand, it's so often said, think outside the box, and I think people just dismiss that because they hear it so often. But what that really means is think outside of what you already know and tap into other resources to create a whole new norm. That's exactly what you did. But how did you do that? How did you create or identify those component parts that, as I said, you could then bring those into the symphony that you've created for children?
By partnering with Cell Life, by partnering with the hospitals and listening to them. One of the things that we truly pride ourselves on here is we don't bring hospitals what we think what we want them to have. We bring them what they want. We're not, that organization that says, and very well-meaning, honestly. So many organizations are like, oh, we think that sick kids need this, and this is a great idea for us to go in and do it for them. That's not what we do here at enCourage Kids Foundation. We go in and we ask the experts, what do you need, and what have you found to be most effective? And then we go and we fund that for them. So that sets us apart from many organizations. It's, again, I don't consider myself an expert in what children in the hospital need, but I consider myself an expert in translating to funders and donors to the rest of my team and going out and being able to move those resources into the hospital. So you're absolutely right. There were people who thought music therapy, it's just, someone playing the guitar for kids. So I would go into a hospital and see a child, for instance, who was post-surgical, had to walk, for instance, and a musician start playing their bedside with the guitar and then really begin to coax the kid out of bed and perhaps move backwards, and all of a sudden you've got a kid that's walking towards that guitar, towards that musician, and having that moment that is physical therapy for them when no one else was able to get the child out of bed. That's magical, which is great, but it's also instrumental in helping the healing process. And when you can prove and show what you set out to do, then all of a sudden everyone is on board.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing there is that you are a very good listener. You and your team, as you said, don't come with a prescription already written out without actually seeing what the needs on the ground are, listening to the professionals who are on the ground. But you do have tools that you then are able to bring forward once you work with those professionals and identify the need, that you then help them by reaching out to your network and raising the money for that specific new prescription for children that can include a number of different tools that you've funded before, that you've become, experts that are related to that. So you have your own capacity now to hear, listen, and build, and then fundraise and then make a difference.
Absolutely. You mentioned the program earlier. Years ago, when tablets were new and many children did not have the opportunity to use one, it was a great distraction tool. So I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if tablets were specifically built or programmed to assist child life in their daily interventions with children? And so once again, I went to a group of child life specialists and I said, what would you want this tablet to look like if you needed it to help you? Which types of would you want downloaded on them? How would you want them aggregated? I partnered with a wonderful programmer who also happened to be a child specialist and creative arts therapist to build a specific type of tablet that would work with hospitalized kids. And, it was an awesome outcome because, once again, we didn't know exactly what the outcome looked like, but we knew that if we went to the partners, if we listened again, we have a great product, and we did.
I think what's wonderful about the approach that you take and that your foundation takes is that, as you said, you don't just approach this that, hey, we have a budget and we have a need and we're going to go fundraise to our budget and our need, but that you're listening to the professionals and drawing on the experience and developing, really sort of bespoke, customized approaches for the institutions that you interact with, and then fundraise to that specific prescribed approach based on the professionals that you interact with. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a winner for us. We don't experience many dramatic failures because we're going in, asking humbly and listening to what's needed at any given time.
That's terrific. We are here live with Michele Hall-Duncan, President and CEO of the enCourage Kids Foundation. We're going to take a very quick break here, and when we come back, I want to explore a little bit more with Michele the specific steps that she has taken to really build a strong foundation. So we're going to, Michele, when we come back from this break, we're going to take a look a little bit internally so that we can understand how you have structured this and how others can learn from that experience. And we will be right back.
Every day, millions of people are online, many of whom want to help, volunteer, and donate to a good cause. Nonprofit organizations can use many Google tools to reach potential donors around the world and raise more money. And as an approved nonprofit, it doesn't cost a thing. It's all free. Google Grants helps you promote your website with free advertising on Google.com through the AdWords program. With Google AdWords, you create ads and choose words or phrases related to your nonprofit organization. When people search on Google using one of your phrases, your ad will appear next to the Google search results under the Sponsored Links section. AdWords allows you to target certain geographic areas, dates, and times of day for your ads to appear. YouTube for Nonprofits is another tool that can boost donations to your organization. The program offers a number of perks that get your message out there and drive viewers to take action and donate. You can list your organization on YouTube's nonprofit channel and add call to action overlays on your videos to drive viewers to donate. Need help analyzing your website traffic and marketing effectiveness? Google Analytics is a free tool that will give you rich insight and help you increase the number of people that visit and donate to your site. Google Analytics can be invaluable to many people in your organization, such as development directors, marketing staff, and your web team. There are many other tools that can help you reach more donors and raise funds, like Google Checkout, where you can process credit card donations with no transaction fee, Google Sites to create a free website, and Website Optimizer, where you can figure out the best landing pages to turn site visitors into donors. To get started, apply for Google for Nonprofits today.
Have you ever wished you could take back an email you sent to the wrong person? Or have that nagging feeling that your confidential message was forwarded without your consent? Do you sometimes email sensitive data even though you know most email isn't secure? And we all have, because we're busy, and because in the world of email, there are no takebacks. Until now. Introducing Virtru, the simple way to send and receive secure email with confidence. Virtru is easy to install and use, and it works with your favorite email programs like Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo, MacMail, and more. When you hit the Send Secure button, your email is encrypted before it leaves your computer or smartphone. And even better, you can revoke a message at any time. You decide whether a message can be forwarded by recipients. You can track where your message is forwarded, and more. Download Virtru today and start sharing with confidence, because everyone deserves digital privacy and security without hassle.
Remember, our podcasts and archives are always free and always available 24 hours a day at tedhart.com, on iTunes, and now just say, Alexa, play Nonprofit Coach on TuneIn. Now back to the Nonprofit Coach podcast with Ted Hart.
I'll hang up and see what happens. Hello?
Well, we are back here with Michele Hall-Duncan, and she is the President and CEO of the enCourage Kids Foundation. Michele, when we went on the break, I had promised that we would take a look at a little bit about your foundation itself and how you have structured that to be able to be so successful in listening, learning from professionals, and sort of creating specific fundraising opportunities to build this better environment for children, their health care, and to help them speed along their healing. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So do you mean specifically what we do here as a team?
Yeah, so how you structured that so that you stay on that edge that you've created in terms of, we're always looking here on the Nonprofit Coach to help people learn, how can they be properly structured, how can they learn from your success. So what are some of the things about how you've structured yourself and how you put your programming together that you think make you particularly successful?
So I would say, again, for us, it just always goes back to our partnerships with Child Life. And for me, I like to make sure that I am consistently meeting with the professionals in the health profession that help us keep ourselves, in touch with what's going on. My team is a very well-versed team in how to interact with sick children and interact at all levels with administration, child life, doctors, nurses, and other clinicians. So what I like to do is make sure that, first of all, everyone on the team understands the mission, that they have an opportunity to visit the hospitals. I don't want any person on the team to feel like, even if they're not involved in direct programming, that they don't have a stake in this mission. So we talk about that continuously. We ask for everyone's input and advice around what we do here. And I think that's very, very important when you're leading a team, to not have silos, to not isolate anyone with regard to the mission, because everyone can have an opinion and bring something excellent to the table.
Right. And I would imagine it takes, a fair amount of time and certainly a strong organization to listen and learn and to bring together the various professional input that you have at the organizations, but also, the folks who are the professionals in music therapy, the folks who are helping you develop and maintain the tablet program, and all of those, bringing all those folks together before you can even then start utilizing them for the children themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Staying plugged into professional organizations, being at the table so that you already understand what the healthcare climate looks like. All of those things are important. I like to be prepared, and so I read a lot. I like to understand everything that's happening around children's health, and I think no matter what your mission is, you should do the same. It helps you to continue to stay at the table. It helps for people to continue to see you as a leader in that particular industry or that particular niche that you have in the nonprofit world.
Being as good as you are as a foundation and having been at this for a while, the way that the professional staffs at hospitals interact with you has really changed over time, hasn't it? Where you're a little bit more welcomed with open arms now than perhaps when you first started?
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct about that. I was at a Child Life Directors Conference in Scottsdale last month, and, the caliber of people, these are all high-level leadership in child life, really embraced and welcomed what I was doing because they felt that I had a really key understanding not only of what they did every day, but how significant that it was. And so, sure, now, I'm pretty much welcomed everywhere.
Yeah, I certainly understand that the work that you've been doing for decades, because before you were with the enCourage Kids Foundation, you were with the Starlight Children's Foundation. So you have very deep roots in understanding exactly what the needs of children are, but also how to navigate yourself, through the halls of healthcare.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, it's just one of the things that I feel that really truly makes us unique is our ability to understand. And, no matter, again, what nonprofit you're running, what your mission is, it is so important for you to dig in and listen and understand all aspects of what's happening. I love to listen to our family and listen to what their frustrations are about navigating the healthcare experience. I love to listen to everyone when it comes to that, because you can truly get just multi-layered perspective on what's happening and what's important, and then in your own world or within what's within your power to change, you can try to change it.
What role does the work that because you now serve on the advisory board of one of the country's leading anti-bullying organizations, STOMP Out Bullying. How is that now sort of affecting some of the work that you do? Do you see that the effect of bullying on children and their health care, and are these things starting to inform each other?
Well, I think that what's always happened when children have an illness, particularly one that is visible, is that there is always the opportunity for children to bully them. And it really comes from a place of not understanding and oftentimes a place of fear. And so arming our children with a safe space, first of all, to interact with one another, families interacting with other families. And we do that when we take our families, once they are no longer in the hospital, on wonderful escapes, so to speak. We went to camp just at the beginning of September. We've taken 500 participants to Six Flags The Great Adventure here in Jackson, New Jersey. We just love to bring families together and give them a safe space where no one is gawking or staring or making offhand comments. And then we also learn from each other how, when those types of things happen, to, if we can, teach and inform other children. This isn't the frightening thing. This is just, what's happening. Children learning how to talk to other children about their illness and really not like they need to bully other children, but it definitely happens, and it's truly unfortunate. I hear a lot of times from my children who are wheelchair bound that, when they go to school, kids just don't understand what that means or why that happens, and we adults know that it can be frightening sometimes when you see something that you don't understand and you don't know how it happened. So we hope that by giving our families the opportunity to experience that safe space, it helps to bolster up their confidence and bolster up their spirits when they do interact with people who just don't understand.
Yeah, and that gives people an opportunity to network as well, right? So that they can create support networks and have, other families that they know are, managing life similarly to the way that they are, so they can, be there for each other, both, physically and psychologically, but creating that. So is that also a part of the work of the enCourage Kids Foundation, in addition to sort of the physical and therapy things that you help bring to the program?
Yes, absolutely. There's a kind of movement that's been happening for years and years and years towards family-centered care in the hospital setting, and it's basically where you're treating the entire family so that they can all manage their child's illness together. And so we like to borrow that same philosophy with our escapes program and allow everyone to experience a wonderful time together. If it's just going to the movies or, as I said, going to camp for an entire weekend, what organically evolves out of that are these relationships and friendships that allow these families to interact outside of the events that we produce for them and really create a support system for themselves, and it's extremely valuable for them.
Again, thinking of our audience today, nonprofit executives, fundraisers, people who are engaged in the management of nonprofit organizations, what would you say are some of the principal lessons that you have learned during your tenure that have particularly made the institution of enCourage Kids Foundation, not necessarily the work, we've talked about the incredible work that you do, but the institution of enCourage Kids Foundation to be successful in terms of board structure, communication, staff structure? What are some of the lessons that you've learned over your tenure that you think would be very helpful to those that are listening?
I think one of the things, we'll start with the board. I think one of the things that's super important about your board is that you have a great relationship with your board chair, first of all, because that's going to be, in a healthy situation, your go-to person. And myself and my board chair have an excellent relationship. I can come to him and talk about anything, triumphs or challenges, and he listens. We have everything in place here that you really should have in place for board structure. We make sure that we have term limits. We make sure that we have committees that function and have executive committee meetings on a regular basis so that the board can hear from me, again, what we're doing right, what we may be doing wrong, what's coming down the pike. Also making sure that one of the things that I'm really pushing for right now. My current challenge is diversification of my board, and it's something that so many nonprofits in particular are challenged with, making sure that they have a board that reflects their constituency and where you are able to receive thoughts from all aspects of the community. So that's something that's extremely important. Obviously, having your board have great oversight over all fiduciary aspects of your organization is important. We always look on Board Source as a really wonderful resource for us. As a person who serves on the board of Children's Specialized Hospital Foundation, we found that using Board Source was fantastic for us in helping us with trustee engagement and many other aspects of our board leadership, and has helped to positively expand board participation. So it's so important to have an engaged board, because if they value you and they value the mission, they work even harder as your lead volunteers to help you to bring resources to the organization, and then to, talk about that mission and push that back out there into the community.
I want to talk a little bit about, you brought up an important resource for nonprofit organizations, and that is boardsource.org, which is an organization that focuses on nonprofit board leadership, and they provide support and training and education for nonprofit leaders across the country and around the world. They are a 501c3 organization in the United States, and so for you to endorse that organization, I think is a very big deal, and certainly brings that resource forward. Talk to us a little bit more about the specific things that you rely on Board Source to provide to the enCourage Kids Foundation.
So, yes, I love Board Source. I went to my first Board Source Leadership Forum, which is their huge, now I think, biannual conference in New Orleans several years back. And it's just absolutely, I think for me, newly in the leadership role, it was transformative, and it helped me with the tools to come back to my board and say, hey, let's look at how we're doing things. And they provide an amazing survey, several surveys, but one that you can, have your board take so that they can self-assess. It's so wonderful to know what your board thinks, not only about the mission, but what they think about themselves. And then it teaches you, as the leader of the organization, where there are gaps in understanding. Perhaps, you need to really do a deeper dive to the mission with your board. You'll find out where your strong spots are and then where your weak spots are, and help your board to be the best board that it can be. They have tons of white papers that you can download, obviously great resources, books. We use the top 10 things that every board member should know. We bought that and we handed it out to our entire board because it helped them understand what their responsibilities were. It's just been a vital, vital resource for us. And I am looking forward to attending the forum in St. Louis in May with my board chair, and also with two of the president and CDO from Children's Specialized, and our new board chair for Children's Specialized. So it's going to be very exciting for all of us to go together and really absorb what the Leadership Forum has to offer. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, and they also provide resources for helping the board of directors to assess the success of the organization, the success of the CEO, but also to assess themselves as board members. And all of that is extremely important, but many nonprofit organizations miss those sort of three assessment points.
Yeah, they do. And again, I truly believe that it can be transformational. We initially did the survey with the board at Children Specialized, and it was amazing for us. We just were able to understand so much about what the board knew and what the board didn't know. And really, it was an opportunity to teach our board members, here's what it means to serve on a board. Here's your directive. Here's what you ought to be doing. And, everyone embraced the survey and the results, and we just made ourselves an even better board from that. So it was wonderful working with my peers on that board to help elevate how we worked together, and to bring those newly learned skills back to my own job was incredible. So it's great to serve on a board, because then you learn what it means to be a board member, and you can go back and talk even more effectively to your own board of directors.
But that also ties into the skill set that you bring to the enCourage Kids Foundation, in that, again, you're listening and learning from others. You're bringing those tools to help others benefit from them. So I love this, sort of 360 approach that you take to each of these topics. We're going to take a very, very quick break. When we come back, I do want to talk to Michele Hall-Duncan, President CEO of the enCourage Kids Foundation, about her work with the Association of Fundraising Professionals, where she currently serves as a board member for the New York City chapter, and we will be right back.
Life gets busy. Wouldn't it be nice to have a central place where you could save what's on your mind? With Google Keep, you can stay on top of your world by quickly and easily organizing everything you want to remember. No matter where you are.
Finalize door list for Thursday's gig.
So when you find inspiration, you can file away your ideas. And Google Keep stores them safely across all your devices. And when the time comes, you'll have everything covered. Save what's on your mind. Google Keep.
And again, don't forget to mark your calendar for December 17th when Kay Sprinkle Grace returns here to the Nonprofit Coach. Kay is always our guest for our holiday year-end show, and it always ends up being one of the most popular shows of the year. So do not miss Kay Sprinkle Grace right here on the Nonprofit Coach, 12 noon Eastern on December 17th.
Remember, our podcasts and archives are always free and always available 24 hours a day at tedhart.com, on iTunes, and now just say, Alexa, play Nonprofit Coach on TuneIn. Now back to the Nonprofit Coach podcast with Ted Hart.
And we're back here live with Michele Hall-Duncan, President and CEO of the enCourage Kids Foundation. And Michele, you serve as a board member of the Association of Fundraising Professionals New York City chapter, which is actually the founding chapter of the Association of Fundraising Professionals. Talk to us a little bit about your work on the board, what AFP, the Association of Fundraising Professionals, is for our listeners, but also how all of these experiences are tying together for you.
Serving on the board has been absolutely wonderful. As you said, AFP is one of the largest fundraising membership organizations in the country, and our chapter is huge. We're right at the heart of New York City, so there's so many organizations, consultants, everything that love to be a part of that organization. So what we're doing is work trying to make fundraising professionals the best that they can be. We are, organizing wonderful professional advancement workshops and seminars. I serve on the Professional Advancement Committee as well. It's our job to create learning opportunities for the fundraising community. And that's just been a wonderful experience, having the opportunity to work with, again, consultants that are in the New York metro area, other nonprofit organizations that are in the area. And also, we have had wonderful opportunities to interact with, for instance, the head of Charity Navigator, who came in and had a members-only meeting with us, and people were able to ask questions about Charity Navigator and what it means and how you navigate and get those wonderful 4-star ratings. It is truly a wonderful resource, I think, for any fundraising professional out there. And if you're in New York City, you should definitely take a look at it and join. We host a national philanthropy day, a huge fundraising conference every year. That it's just a wealth of knowledge, so many different opportunities to learn different tracks, the CEO track or the development officer track, just tracks really how to make the most out of fundraising and out of really just to elevate your own emotional status. And of course, it's a fantastic network opportunity for people. People want to go in and meet others. And for us, I think at the leadership level, it helps us to feel like we're not alone a lot of times in our struggles. I know before I became a part of AFP, I would think that many of the challenges that I had were maybe my fault, or I just wasn't, well-versed enough to understand what was happening. And then I go and I interact with other leaders, and they're like, no, that happens to everyone. So it is a wonderful organization, and I truly enjoy it.
And the big event that you mentioned, the fundraising day in New York, is, I believe, the largest one-day fundraising conference anywhere in the world, and just celebrated its 40th anniversary this year. It's held in June in New York City each year. Quite a famous outing for fundraisers, nonprofit executives, and their boards of directors, and for many years has really brought together the biggest and brightest to learn from each other.
And it was one of the largest that we'd ever done. It was packed, but just amazing, just chock full of great speakers and, again, great opportunities to learn and advance in the profession.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that the AFP New York AFP itself has a mission of education and training and bringing people together. Of course, that's what we're doing here today, here on the Nonprofit Coach, with this profile on leadership with Michele Hall-Duncan, CEO of enCourage Kids Foundation. We've got about 12 minutes left, so I was wondering if you could share your best tips for our listeners on their year-end giving. This is November. People are looking at, arguably now we're coming into the most important fundraising time of the year. What advice have you gained over time that could be beneficial to our listeners?
Wow, you're right. So many of my peers talk about Q4 being, where the rubber hits the road. And there are so many opportunities packed into that, not only for fundraising, but for brand visibility. December 3rd we're going to be running right into Giving Tuesday. And so there's a lot of conversation about how you prepare for that. And, do you use it specifically as a fundraising day? Or more importantly, do you use it as an awareness day and an awareness opportunity? With Facebook entering the arena several years ago and allowing people to donate to charities through their platform, Giving Tuesday seems to be a social media event in many ways, but we are all trying to figure out how we begin and drive traffic through not only social media, but direct mail pieces, as well as online giving. There are a lot of email blasts that go out. I believe last Giving Tuesday, I must have gotten upwards of 150 emails about Giving Tuesday. So it is an impactful day for people. Very, very competitive. One thing I always worry about in is they're having too much noise about something, and do our numbers and potential turn off to that if they're hearing much about it. So Tuesday is that everyone prepares for. It's just how you do it that can be individual, maybe set you apart from others. And then obviously we're working on our end-of-year appeal and talk to our donors about what we collectively have accomplished together for hospitalized children and their families. And also it's a time to thank donors. Thanksgiving is about 3 weeks away. I think it's important to continuously thank your donors for what they've done for you, for our kids, and to not always ask attached to that. It's wonderful, I know I receive a thank you from an organization that I donate to, and there is not an ask attached to it. Oftentimes, then they're top of mind, and I'm inclined to go back in and to share more resources with them. So I think that's what we're really working on and thinking about here. Just at the end of the year, how do we wrap up the entire year's achievements and share them, and then also share with our donors that unfortunately there are more sick children.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you're giving the advice that there's almost sort of like a 1-2 punch at the end of the year, where you really advise putting a lot of emphasis on Giving Tuesday. Of course, Giving Tuesday is sort of that hashtag event that happens the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. There's Thanksgiving, then there's Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, and then after you've done all of your spending and all of your shopping, the thought is that Tuesday after all of that, let's give back to our communities, let's give back to the charities that we care most about. So you're saying, really charities should put a big emphasis on that. That's December 3rd this year, so just marking your calendars. But then follow up on that sort of year-end holiday, Christmas or New Year's or however you may celebrate that, to take a look at a year-end appeal as well. Is that your advice?
Yes, I definitely believe that you should always have the year-end appeal because, again, it's on people's minds to give, and then also you're running into the year.
And developing those opportunities for people to give. Again, Giving Tuesday just started in, I think 2012 was the first Giving Tuesday. So that's relatively new in terms of approach, but you find it, actually I think we've just lost Michele Hall-Duncan. Hopefully she'll call in just before the end of the show here. So anyway, just to bring our listeners up to speed on the topic that she brought in right here at the end, is Giving Tuesday is that Tuesday after Thanksgiving. This year it is December 3rd. It is a movement that has grown tremendously since it started just a few years ago, and really is for a lot of donors and a lot of people a focus of their giving, a focus certainly of nonprofit support, whether that's financial support or volunteer support, but does kind of kick off that giving season for a lot of nonprofit organizations. So I'll just recap here the lessons that we learned from our profiles in leadership today. Michele Hall-Duncan, the President and CEO of enCourage Kids Foundation, was with us here. She spoke about listening and learning from other professionals, bringing together networks that may not be your natural network for your organization. That was a very powerful approach. I think that Michele Hall-Duncan is just rejoining us here. Michele, is that you? No, I apologize for that. Anyway, she then led us to the Board Source as an opportunity to grow and learn with your organization. Michele, thank you for coming back. I understand we had a little bit of phone problem there. I was just recapping for folks all the lessons that you've brought to us in this profile in leadership, and had given a little bit more detail on Giving Tuesday itself. As we look to wrap up the show today, Michele, could you just give us sort of your final advice for our listeners on how to be successful, and then how our listeners can reach you?
Thank you so much. And I think that for me, what's been successful for me in my trajectory, again, starting as a volunteer here at the organization, which was, so serendipitous. I was supposed to volunteer. I was volunteering for 4 years, and I had lost my job, had been bought out by a competitor, and so I had the opportunity to either go to Texas or stay here in New York, and I love New York City so much. And so for 3 months, I was going to work for the foundation while someone was on maternity leave, and that was 23 years ago. And so the mission has really resonated with me. Yeah, and really I would say to anyone, learn. I learned this job from the ground up. I learned the mission first and helped to further it with my very own hands, and just became so in love with what we were doing for kids that it was crucial and important to me. So I think when you're in a leadership role, do what I did. Join professional organizations, learn all the time, read, take the opportunity to interact with other professionals, have a mentor, and be a mentor. Having a mentor is great because they can see you differently than they see yourself, and encourage you to do things that you might not think that you're ready for. And then when you are a mentor, you're literally doing the same thing for someone else, and sometimes it helps you to see, hey, I'm encouraging my mentee to take a leap. Maybe I should listen to my own mentor and take those same leaps as well. So those are some of the things that are extremely important, I think, to success, keeping you as a well-rounded professional and leader, and always stay humble. I really think it's important. I love meeting people. I love meeting other professionals. I love meeting young professionals. I really do try to listen to what the young people on my team say and have to offer, because they are the new generation of donors, and we are going to have to pay attention to how they give. They definitely like to have more touch points with the mission than perhaps the previous generation of donors did. Make sure you understand how to have relationships with the corporate social responsibility departments of companies, and stay abreast on everything that's happening in the nonprofit world so that you don't have any surprises.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I love your suggestion to have a mentor, but be a mentor. Give back to society, give back to the profession. I know you're doing that in so many ways with the advisory boards that you serve on, and with AFP itself. Michele Hall-Duncan, I cannot thank you enough for being our guest here, and to bring this profile of leadership to the nonprofit sector, to learn from your many years of experience with the enCourage Kids Foundation, but also the network that you have developed around you. We wish you all the best here as you go into Giving Tuesday and the holiday season, and we hope that you'll be our guest again here on the Nonprofit Coach. Thank you, Michele Hall-Duncan.
Thank you so much, Ted.
You've been listening to the Nonprofit Coach podcast with Ted Hart. Tell all your friends to check out our production schedule and download our iPod and iPad-friendly podcasts at tedhart.com. Thanks for listening to the Nonprofit Coach.
When it comes to cleaning your house, who doesn't wish un galán with a trust fund swept in and passed the mop to your evil stepmom like in the telenovelas? Hola, it's Chiquis here, and although life isn't always like in the soap operas, Fabuloso does bring a clean that's always over the top. Get your home dramatically clean anytime you like, without any evil mama drama. Just long-lasting lavender freshness. That's Fabuloso, taking the drama out of any mess.
Fabuloso's 2 times concentrated formula provides 2 times more active ingredients versus non-concentrated Fabuloso Original. Use as directed.